I found a life insurance policy in my husband's name, with my name on it as the insured, that I had never signed. The beneficiary wasn't me. It was a woman I'd never heard of, for $80,000. I need you to sit with that for a second. Because I did. I sat with it for a very long time. On the cold tile floor of my own home office, holding a piece of paper that told me my husband had been quietly, carefully planning to profit from my death. But let me go back. Because to understand how I got to that floor, you need to understand who I was before I found that document. You need to understand what I thought my life was. My name is Carol. I was 53 years old when this happened, and I had spent the previous 26 years building something I was genuinely proud of. Not just a marriage, a whole architecture of a life. I met Dennis at a conference in Charlotte in 1996. He was a civil engineer with kind eyes, and this way of laughing at his own jokes just before he finished telling them that I found absolutely charming. We got married 14 months later in a small ceremony in my mother's backyard in Western Virginia. 70 people, wildflowers, my grandmother's lace tablecloth on the food table. Simple and ours. We built a good life together in Roanoke. I was a licensed pharmacist, eventually bought into a small independent pharmacy with a colleague named Ruth. Dennis worked for a regional firm and did well enough. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had a house with a big porch. We had a daughter, Lily, who grew up to be a marine biologist. We had 2 dogs and a vegetable garden and a tradition of Friday night takeout from the Thai place on Jefferson Street that we never once broke for 22 years. I trusted Dennis the way you trust the floor beneath your feet. Completely. Without thinking about it. Because why would you think about it? He was the one who handled our finances. Not because I couldn't. I ran a business, I understood numbers. But because he offered early in our marriage and I said yes, and it just stayed that way. He paid the bills, managed the investment accounts, handled the insurance. I signed things when he put them in front of me. Tax documents, refinancing papers, policy renewals. I signed without reading closely. I trusted him. That was the door I left open without knowing it. 2 years before I found the policy, things had started to feel slightly off between us. Not dramatically wrong, just a persistent low hum of wrongness I kept dismissing. Dennis working late more often, his phone face down on every surface, the way he'd stopped reaching for my hand when we watched television. I told myself it was stress. His firm had restructured, we were getting older, marriages breathe in and out, I knew that. I didn't push. Then Ruth, my business partner, one of my oldest friends, sat me down one afternoon after we'd closed the pharmacy and told me she'd seen Dennis having lunch at the Marriott downtown with the same woman 3 times in 4 weeks. Not lunches that looked like work. She said they were close. She said she was sorry. I went home that evening and I sat across from my husband at the dinner table and I looked at his face. That face I had kissed 10,000 times. And I said nothing. I needed to know what I was actually dealing with before I said a single word. So I started paying attention. I began going through things carefully, not frantically, methodically. I'm a pharmacist. I think in systems. I started with the filing cabinet in his home office, a cabinet I hadn't opened in years, because I'd had no reason to. It took me 2 evenings of searching while Dennis was at the gym before I found the folder. It was a plain manila folder, no label, tucked behind our auto insurance documents. Inside was a life insurance policy written by a company I didn't recognize, Prescott and Halloway Life Group, based in Richmond, with a policy number, a premium payment history going back 4 years, and my name listed as the insured party. The coverage amount was $8,000. I stared at the signature on the application. It looked like mine. It was not mine. The beneficiary line listed someone named Deanna Ferris. There was an address in Lynchburg, Virginia. I want to tell you what I felt in that moment, but the truth is, I didn't feel anything right away. The feeling came about 3 minutes later, when the meaning of what I was reading finally broke through the surface of my brain. This policy had been opened 4 years ago. Dennis had been paying premiums on it, not small ones, without my knowledge. Someone named Deanna Ferris would receive $800,000 if I died. My signature had been forged, and my husband was the only person on earth with both the motive and the access to do this. I sat on that tile floor and I thought very clearly. He is planning to kill me. I didn't call Dennis. I didn't confront him that night. I photographed every single page of that document with my phone, put the folder back exactly where I found it, went to our bedroom, and I lay next to my husband of 26 years in the dark while he slept, and I felt the world I had built dissolve completely around me. The next morning, I called my daughter. Lily was in Monterey at the time, working at a research institute. I told her I needed her to listen and not panic. I told her everything. She went very quiet on the phone, and then she said, "Mom, you need a lawyer today. Not tomorrow. Today." She was right. By noon, I was sitting in the office of an attorney named Frances Whitmore, a woman Ruth had recommended, someone who handled exactly this kind of situation. Frances was 61, compact, with reading glasses on a beaded chain, and the demeanor of someone who had heard every terrible thing a human being was capable of and remained unshocked. I laid the photographs in front of her on her desk. She looked at them for a long time. Then she looked up at me and said, "Carol, I want you to understand something. What you're holding here isn't just evidence of fraud. This is potentially a document that reflects intent. We need to treat this situation accordingly." Frances contacted a private investigator that same afternoon. Within a week, we had confirmed that Deanna Ferris was a 41-year-old dental hygienist from Lynchburg who had been in a relationship with my husband for at least 3 years. We had photographs. We had records of him visiting her apartment 47 times over 18 months. We had text message records, obtained legally through the divorce proceedings we quietly began filing, that made the nature of their relationship unmistakable. We also found that Dennis had taken out a second loan against our home equity 18 months prior for $60,000 that I had known nothing about. The money had gone in pieces to Deanna Ferris's bank account and to a joint investment account opened in both their names. He had not only been planning to replace me, he had already begun building a new life using the money we had made together. Frances advised me carefully on every step. We said nothing. We moved nothing. We let the legal process work while I continued living in that house, sitting across from Dennis at the dinner table, asking him about his day, watching him lie to my face with a smile I had once found warm and now found terrifying. It lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of the most precise acting I have ever performed in my life. And then we were ready. I chose a Sunday morning. Dennis was in the kitchen making coffee. I walked in and sat down at the table, and I put the photographs, all of them, the policy, the bank records, the investigator's report, the pictures of him and Deanna, in a neat stack in front of his coffee cup. He looked at the stack. He looked at me. He went very still. "I'm not going to yell," I said. "I want you to know that first. I'm past yelling. Carol, don't." I held up one hand. "I know about Deanna. I know about the loan against the house, and I know about the insurance policy that has my name on it, and her name as the person who gets paid when I'm gone. I know you forged my signature. I know all of it." He sat down slowly. He didn't deny it. That was the thing that finally broke something loose in me. He didn't even try to deny it. He just looked at the table and said, very quietly, "How long have you known?" 6 weeks, I said. He closed his eyes. "Here is what's going to happen," I told him. "My attorney has already filed for divorce. You're going to receive the papers tomorrow. You will not contest anything. You will not fight the asset division. You will cooperate completely, or my attorney will walk everything she has, including that insurance policy and the forged signature, directly to the Roanoke County Sheriff's Office. Do you understand what insurance fraud and forgery mean for your engineering license? Do you understand what a criminal investigation into a fraudulent life insurance policy on your wife's life looks like to a prosecutor?" He was crying by then, silently, which somehow made it worse, or maybe better. I'm still not sure. "I didn't," he started. "I don't want to know," I said. "I genuinely do not want to hear your explanation. I want you to pack a bag and go to wherever you've been going, and I want you out of this house by the time I come back from my walk this morning." I put on my coat. I walked out the front door. I walked for 45 minutes through the neighborhood I had lived in for 22 years, past the park where Lily had learned to ride her bike, past the neighbors' houses, past the Thai restaurant that was dark and closed on Sunday mornings. And when I came home, Dennis was gone. What followed was not easy. I will not pretend it was. Divorce at 53 after 26 years is not a victory lap. It is hard, grinding, grief-soaked work. I mourned the marriage I thought I'd had. I mourned the man I thought Dennis was. There were nights when I sat on the porch alone and felt the weight of all those years and cried until I was empty. But here is what else happened. The insurance policy was reported to the Virginia State Corporation Commission's Bureau of Insurance and to the Roanoke County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. Dennis was investigated for insurance fraud and forgery. He did not go to prison. A plea agreement was reached, but he received 2 years of supervised probation, a $40,000 fine, and a permanent notation on his professional record that effectively ended his career at his firm. His engineering license was suspended, pending review. The divorce was finalized 11 months after I walked out that front door on a Sunday morning. I kept the house. I kept my full share of the retirement accounts, plus a settlement that reflected the $60,000 he had redirected from our home equity. Deanna Ferris, who had apparently not known about me as thoroughly as she thought she did, broke off contact with Dennis within weeks of the investigation becoming public record. The pharmacy is still mine. Ruth and I expanded last year. We added a small compounding lab in the back that I had been wanting to do for a decade. Lily visited in the spring and helped me repaint the back porch the color I had always wanted but never chosen, because Dennis preferred beige. It's a deep, warm green now, like the inside of a forest. I still take the same walk on Sunday mornings, past the park, past the neighbors, past the Thai restaurant, which just got new ownership and is better than ever. I am 55 years old. I have a pharmacy, a porch the right color, and a life that belongs entirely to me for the first time in a very long time. And Dennis, the man who paid premiums for 4 years on the quiet hope that I would disappear, is living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Lynchburg, alone, with a probation officer and a suspended license and all the consequences of his own choices. I didn't set out to destroy him. I want to be clear about that. I just refused to be destroyed first. There's a difference. And knowing that difference, holding on to it, building on it, that is how you walk back out into a life that's actually yours.